Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. As always, you know, my video that I made yesterday, it did pretty good, so I really appreciate everybody taking the time to view it. You know, I am starting to try to, like, you know, poll everybody, you know, subscribers, even non-subscribers. Like, I guess, I don't know who sees the poll, but, you know, I'm trying to, you know, ask you guys kind of what you want to see. So, you know, hopefully that will produce, you know, some bangers. But, yeah. So, I did go ahead and went back to the SuperUnited Blitz that they played in Croatia earlier this year. So I got the game Wesley versus Veselin Topalov. He is a former world champion in chess, wins, you know, FIDE and the Pro Chess Association. They split back in 1993. So he was able to grab himself a world championship title. So I hopefully filled all the criteria involved. But of course, for all my people from the Philippines, I will say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking makaibigan. Masaya ako makinig muli. I appreciate you guys stopping back by again. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan. Anybody who is coming from Bulgaria, little Bulgarian for you. I will say dobry den and Bogodaria. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look, see what we got for this game. All right, so we got the move E4. We got C5. So, I mean, I don't think very many of you guys know this opening. It's called the Sicilian defense. Of course you guys know the opening. I think everybody pretty much at one time or another has come across. If you've played E4, you've seen the Sicilian. And so we do see the move knight to F3. We got the move D6. And like I always say, this is by far going to be the most common way that you see the Sicilian played. You know, by both sides. You're pretty much going to get into this position, and you can kind of branch off from there. Almost always you see a D4 in this position, and then we just get into, if my mouse will work for me. Come on, son. You haven't been sitting for that long. A little bit annoying. Thank you. You know, we have D4, pawn takes, knight takes, and then usually you'll see like a knight to F6, and we can get into like a knight orb situation, you know, kind of however you want to do that. But we do see bishop to B5 in this particular case. So this is a Sicilian defense, the canal attack. And I always say, I don't really know why it's called that. I think it's probably just a situation that, I mean, this kind of looks like a big canal going to the king, and you kind of got to block some kind of way, in which I'm pretty sure that we've seen queen to D7 before, and that was actually very interesting. I don't know the story behind that, but we do have the move knight to D7. And the crazy thing is, I've actually played this in a tournament myself, and I lost. It's because he cheated. No, I'm playing. He didn't cheat. I just played I played pretty bad. So, I mean, I kind of just got crushed. You know, back in the day, when I was, I guess I'll say below average. Anyways, we do see the move A4. And A4 might look kind of strange right now, but you will see later on in the game that it does have very, very logical implications. We do see the move knight to F6. We got knight to C3, and then we have the move A6. And this is the move that kind of sets things up for this move A4 to make a lot of sense. We do see bishop back to E2. We got the move E6, and then we have the move A5. There's two things with this move. Number one, when you're playing against a Sicilian as white, this is a very, very golden like square for you to be focusing on, because a lot of the times the queen tries to come to C7, and you do kind of want a rook on D8, and that can be a little bit of a problem. Also, I mean, just on simple terms for an endgame, you know, this pawn does kind of freeze these pawns in place just a little bit, not all the way, but just a touch. So we do see the move bishop to E7. We got castles by white, castles by black, rook goes to E1, and then we do see the novelty of the game, which is queen to C7. And I think that is really, really strange, because I just got done saying that queen to C7 is like very, very commonly played in these positions, especially, I mean, if you are a Sicilian player as black, queen to C7 is always a move that you have on your mind for sure. So we do see the move D4. We finally get that D4 pawn takes, knight takes situation going on. And then we do see rook over to B8. This is a little bit annoying for black to have to deal with. So they're thinking of putting this rook here and trying to see if we can push this forward and do a little something like that. But, I mean, at the moment, we kind of have this pawn hit twice. So it's a little dangerous to do it at the moment. We do see the knight going back to B3. We got the rook over to D8. Like I said, I just got done telling you guys that this is a very common setup for black. This is usually a pretty problem pawn for Sicilian players. So we just want to make sure that we put a piece behind it that protects it. We do see the move bishop to D3. We got knight to E5. We got bishop to E3. And this forces black to have to basically backtrack their move. Kind of. and I mean put a knight back on this square, because like I said, this is a very tender square, and we really want bishop to b6 and to, you know, just basically win in exchange. So we do see the knight f going to d7. We got knight over to a4. We got the rook over to e8. We got queen to e2. You know, putting a massive amount of pressure on this pawn, because we're looking at maybe possible pawn takes, or you know, b5 or b6, and we would be taking here, and we got a lot of firepower, you know, on this pawn like so. The bishop does come to f6. We got bishop up to a7. You know, we're just inconveniencing the rook a little bit. So we got the rook moving back over to a8, and then we do see the bishop going to d4. We got the knight back to c6. We got bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, and then we do see the move queen to d2, which is actually the best possible move in the position. And it might look a little bit strange. They're like, why am I going queen to d2? Like, what is that even doing? I will be mentioning it in just a second. This move actually for the position makes a lot of sense. And we do have the move bishop to d7. And then we got knight up to b6. So when I get to a certain point, I'll tell you guys about that queen to d2. So the rook a comes to d1, and then we do have the move rook a to d1. Now, the thing that you want to try to be paying attention to in the situation, I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to kind of like somewhat illustrate the point, kind of wasting some moves. But the thing that you do have to be paying attention to in this position is, I mean, this knight is supported just by this pawn. So if you did not create a situation where you can either defend, you know, this, you know, knight with the queen, or this square with the queen, then you can definitely undermine this knight. So going back to what I was talking about, knight takes f6. We do see the move queen to d2, but if we do not see that, I'm going to just be making some moves to just illustrate what exactly I'm talking about, because it's a little tough for it to come up in the game, because these players are really strong. So, I mean, the move h3, you got bishop to d7, you got knight to b6. Of course, you have to protect that rook in the corner first. So the rook a would come over to d8, and then the king over to h1. And like I said, I'm just wasting a couple moves just to illustrate what exactly it is I'm talking about. It's a specific tactic. It is removing the defender. And so this is something that Wesley was having to try to think about, you know, in this particular situation. And there was two ways to do it. I'll get to those in a second. But, you know, rook down to e7, king over to g1, bishop back to e8, and let's say the king goes to h1 or something, right? Okay, you would be in a perfect situation where the knight actually does have the ability to take on a5 now. And because there is nothing in the knight's path to actually take, because, of course, if you are getting, you know, one of your pieces undermined, right, you can always just, like, kind of kamikaze throw it away by like taking some random piece, and then you'd be a-okay. But because, you know, I made these couple of wasting moves, you know, you got the bishop out of the way, you got the rook out of the way, so now the knight doesn't have the ability to capture anything. So you would be being able to remove this pawn, and because this queen is not on d2 like the move was, or on e3, this knight is actually now hanging. So that is the problem that you have to be paying attention to. So in this position here, when the knight took on f6, you did have the ability to either go queen to d2 or queen to e3, and both of those are supporting this knight to be able to come and jump on that square, because as you guys know, the dark square bishop is gone. So like I said, queen to d2, bishop came to d7, knight to b6, rook a to d8. We got rook a to d1, and we're continuing the game. So we do see the move knight over to e5. We got the move f4. We're not worried about our bishop getting taken. It just strengthens up our pawn structure in the center. Knight takes d3, and then pawn takes d3, and then we do see the move bishop to c6. But I mean, because this e4 pawn is supported by this d3 pawn, we're not really too worried about that. The knight does come up to d4. We got the knight over to d7. So you see that black is, you know, trying to successfully play against, you know, this knight that's really just kind of just in black's throat. So we do see knight taking d7, bishop taking d7. We got the rook over to c1, attacking the queen. And as of now, the queen doesn't really have anywhere to go other than this square, because, of course, this square and this square are completely covered, and you can't just move along this file. So we do see queen over to b8. We got the move queen over to b4. You know, and this is really just kind of like, you know, making this, you know, pawn freeze over here kind of like exponentially worse, because now, I mean, you really don't have the ability to push this b pawn, because you would just be giving white a completely passed pawn in this situation, and that is really not what you want to do. So we do see the move e5 trying to displace this knight somehow. So the knight does come down to e2. We got bishop to g4. We got knight coming back over to c3, which might seem like it gives away a pawn, but you see that white is actually getting themselves in a better position after this. The pawn takes f4. You do see the knight up to d5, and you kind of have a decision to make as black. Do you just allow this pawn to be taken, or do you try to like be a little bit dynamic with it? The problem is it's actually better just to allow the pawn to be taken because it actually puts black in kind of a pickle, you know, if you allow you know, what we just get done seeing. So we do see the move f3. We got pawn taking f3 and bishop taking f3. And the most important thing about the particular situation is the amount of time that's being wasted by this bishop in front of the king. Now, it does look kind of suspect for white, though, because, man, you kind of have a little bit of openness. I mean, this king isn't, like, the happiest camper ever, right? So you got to be a little bit careful, though. So the rook does come up to c7. We see bishop over to g4. We got rook e to c1. And, I mean, white is just completely taking over this file. 100%. So we do see the move rook over to d7. We got the queen down to c3. And then we do have the move queen over to d8. And, I mean, it looks like black is trying to do a specific maneuver. They're trying to take advantage. Like I said, this king is kind of wide open over here, homie. So, I mean, we're thinking of maybe some possible queen to g5s with some discoveries. It might get kind of nasty, man. So we have reached a point in the game that if you do want to pause the video and see what move Wesley So plays in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I actually feel like this is a little bit straightforward. If you can make sure you get your mind away from thinking about the dangers your king might be in, then you would be finding the absolute best move in the position. Basically, like I said, black is wanting to try to go queen to g5 and, you know, place a nice discovery on this king, which is a little bit open. But you kind of want to make it to where moving queen to g5 would actually lose the game completely for you. And so that is what Wesley So finds in the game. And he plays the move rook to c8. And it is in this position that Veselin Topalov does resign the game. And basically, I think you guys can kind of see, you know, like I was telling you guys, I mean, you do want to go queen to g5, right? But of course, you can't move now because rook taking e8 is just going to be checkmate, back rank mate. But there really isn't any good way to move the queen anywhere. This knight is completely holding these two squares. I mean, you know, of course, if you take, the queen's going to take, the rook's going to take, and the rook's going to take, and you're looking at back rank mates again. So this is just like a completely like done deal. You really have to give up the queen some kind of way. And you guys remember I was telling you before, like, I mean, you don't really have the ability to move the queen anywhere. The most important thing is you want to try to hold this rook. But the problem is this knight is making that completely impossible. So like I said, if you were able to tear your mind away from thinking about the dangers your white king was in, then you might have been a-okay. But yeah, that is that game. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.